All right, here we go. Sharp or square?
Let's do it.
Raiders at the Bengals. I've gone back and forth on this. I would take the Raiders and the points, and here's why. I worry about the Bengals offensive front. You can't correct it. They don't run the ball unless it's a necessity. They want to throw. They want to do deep drops, and the Raiders have a pass rush. I think we're going to see points in this game. But the Bengals, I talked to Greg Cosell this week. He said, listen, the Bengals, not that they've given up on the run game, but they've identified what they are. They're a big play down the field offense. Well, these two teams played earlier. They couldn't block the Raiders at all. So I just think the points is too many. It's like -4.5 now. I think I'd take the Raiders and the points, although I think the Bengals win close, sharp or square.
So it's totally sharp. I think you're getting the worst of the number. And for the record, I'm telling you it's sharp. I bet the Bengals at 4.5. And I think I'm on the opposite side of a lot of professional bettors. You are 100% sharp here. So many trends, and we're going to talk about this with a lot of the games today, favor short underdogs on the road in the playoffs. Dogs are 15-3 in wild card weekend, 10-8 straight up. Road dogs 14-2, 55% overall since 2003. The other numbers are since 2017. And the Raiders fit this bill, right? And a lot of wise guys came in and they started betting on the Raiders when the line was a little bit higher. They bet it down to 5.5. They bet it down to 5. Now it's down to 4.5. You can find a lot of sort of similarities between these two teams, offensively and defensively, sort of according to the advanced metrics. They're kind of in the same spot. And so it's a huge pros Joe's game. 80% of the money on the Raiders, majority of the bets in the Bengals. You're 100% on the right side. I'm just going to give you a different take that I favor the Bengals. You talk about Joe Burrow. I just think he's the kind of guy who's a playmaker. And in this scenario, when the line is shrinking with a smaller number, it favors him late game, where I have a lot more faith in him than I do in the Raiders. And I'm also a little bit concerned for the Raiders. They had a massive overtime game. The defense played nearly 90 snaps late Sunday night. They've got to turn around, play the first game on Saturday. It's a short week for them. We've seen them lose to bad teams. So that's why I like the Bengals a little bit more. But I will tell you, again, you're on the right side. You're making the right call.
Patriots, I take them +4 against the Bills. It's going to be 5 degrees, not snowing, slight wind, but that's going to hurt the offense, and it's obviously more skilled. That's the kind of weather you drop passes in. It's 5 degrees. The Bills are the better football team. New England's going to run the football, shorten the clock, give themselves a shot. I like the fact that New England lost more recently to them and was kind of dominated. I think it's hard to beat Belichick back-to-back. I mean, Miami through the years has had average coaches that have split with him. It is hard. Brian Flores did it this year, beat him both times. It is a limited team against a good defense, but the Bills are missing their top corner from earlier this year. I take the Patriots and the points, sharp or square.
Totally sharp. Another pros Joe's game. The wise guys are coming in on the Patriots, and the public is coming in on the Bills. So I mentioned some stats before about about underdogs in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Since 2017, NFL underdogs in the playoffs, 29-17. And this especially favors short underdogs. And so we've got two outliers in the Steelers and the Chiefs. I know we'll get to those, but the other games, like we're talking about short dogs. It's why you like the Raiders. It's why everybody likes the Patriots. That is professional better.
All right, I'm going to take the Eagles +8.5 at the Buccaneers. Now, here's the one thing that worries me. The Bucs are a great red zone offense. They get touchdowns, not field goals. But I think the Eagles, Jalen Hurts is now healthy, are a handful to play. This is not your typical run offense. They lead the NFL in big plays, by the way, big plays being 10-yard plus runs and 20-yard plus passes. Tampa is beat up. They are a beat up football team. And the Eagles all year long, even against good defenses, have been bizarrely productive. I think Tampa wins, but an offense that was completely limited in the first round last year. gave them trouble. I think the Eagles keep it close. Weather's a non-factor. The healthier team is Philadelphia. I worry about Brady getting in the red zone. He gets 7s, not 3s, and that could push the line higher and push the score higher. But I would take the Eagles, sharp or square.
Very sharp. Again, another huge pros Joe's game. 63% of the bets on the Bucks, 58% of the money on the Eagles. That tells you professionals are coming in on the Eagles. This line opened at 10. It got bet down to 8.5. Bookmakers saw that was sort of the hard stop for professional bettors. When it got to 8.5, it went back up to 9 and then went back down to 8.5. One thing I will correct you on: weather is expected to be a factor. It could be very windy. There could be thunderstorms. The reason the professional bettors like this game is they do expect it to be relatively low scoring. They do expect the Eagles to be pretty conservative with Jalen Hurts in his first NFL playoff game. And they've just proven like they're going to run the ball. That's what they like to do. And I think a lot of guys are saying, not only do we like the Eagles in the game, we're also going to bet the Eagles in the first half because we've seen the Eagles play a very slow tempo. A lot of games for the Eagles, 0 points, 3 points, 7 points. So take a little taste on the Eagles in the first half too.
All right. This is the strangest one. I love the Niners all week. All week. Now, everybody loves the Niners. It's no longer an upset. So at 3, I would probably take Dallas, sharp or square.
Square. So this was also on the radio today. You talked about you want to bet against Bob from Sheboygan, right?
Yep, that's
and you're
my theory.
using the 49ers as your example. Number one, as a Chicagoan, northern Chicago and North Shore of Chicago in the suburbs, I've been to Sheboygan a million times. It's beautiful in Sheboygan. Once upon a time,
you can't get a good bowl of soup in Sheboygan, I've been told.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? It's like the soup capital of the Midwest. Of course you can get a good bowl of soup in Sheboygan. What are you going to do in Wisconsin other than get a good bowl of soup? My wife, when we lived in New York, we first started living in New York, I used to always say to her, I want to move back to Chicago. I want to move back to Chicago. She looks at me and she goes, listen, if I have the option between going to the Hamptons for the summer or going to Sheboygan, why would I go back to Chicago? Joke's on her because I moved her to Central Connecticut. Now we can't get anywhere. But Sheboygan's great. Bob Sheboygan from Sheboygan is going to be on the Cowboys. The pros are going to be on the Niners. And, you know, you talked about this with Cosell, right? You talked with Greg Cosell. You talked about George Kittle, right? You talked about about Deebo Samuel getting open, right? Like this is where the 49ers will have an advantage. And then on defense, they can control the line of scrimmage because their rush defense is so good and they can make the Cowboys one-dimensional, which is not great when Ezekiel Elliott has not been able to function very well as a running back and Dak has struggled as a quarterback. So it's a coaching mismatch. I think it's a personnel mismatch. I think the wise guys, like the 49ers, what's scaring them is the very first thing you said. The wise guys don't like to be with public dogs. And the 49ers are becoming a public dog. They are the team that everybody thinks is going to cover against the Cowboys or potentially beat the Cowboys. So that's giving them a little bit of pause, but they're on the Niners.
Steelers plus 12.5 at the Chiefs. I've been saying Kansas City's offense is uneven. Pittsburgh, though, I'm not sure how they can move the ball. Mike Tomlin's a great underdog coach, but I've got to tell you, Pittsburgh is painful offensively. And I have a feeling the Chiefs win in a rout. I know it's square, right?
It's a little bit square, but not totally square. Like this is one where you're not going to get a consensus. The line has moved down a little bit, went from about 13.5 to 12.5. So, you know, the professionals came in on the Steelers, but everything you said is why guys are thinking about the Chiefs. And I mentioned sort of the advantage and what the metrics and the analytics say, or the stats say about underdogs in the playoffs that are of less than a touchdown. More than a touchdown, they tend to cover. The favorites tend to cover. And this is a spot where the Chiefs are 12.5. We know it's a rah-rah Mike Tomlin situation. His defense is going to have to carry the cheerleading for this team. And I do think like the one thing they do really well is rush the passer. Patrick Mahomes knows how to handle the rush. This Chiefs team could score 14 points and still cover the spread because the Steelers might not be able to score at all. Big Ben in the last 3 games, he was only his average completion went for 7.2 yards.
I know.
His yards per attempt were 4. Like he just looks washed. I think like he's holding it together with duct tape right now.
Finally, I don't like this as a bet. I take the Cardinals +4 or now +3.5 on FanDuel at the Rams. I would take the Cardinals, not with any confidence. By the way, there's only 2 of these games I love. The Patriots plus the points, the Eagles plus the points. And I could be talked into the Bengals if it got down to like 4. I think that's a really strong play. I don't want to touch this, but I would say Cardinals +3.5, 4 feels like the right side, sharper square. I mean, they face each other. McVay owns Cliff, so he owns them. Like Shanahan owns McVay owns Cliff Kingsbury. But I just think the Cardinals are the hardest team for me in the second half of the year to bet on because so much of their offense is based on ad-libbing by Kyler Murray. I don't feel like I have any control on any of the data. If he gets flushed out, he's often more dangerous than when he's in the pocket. So I find them really hard to bet on. There's not a lot of certainties with their offense.
Remember in the beginning of the year, we said by the end of the year, you're going to earn your Sharp certificate. You just earned it.
Boom!
Because your analysis on this game is exactly how the wise guys are thinking. They don't love it. They know the Cardinals at +4, +3.5 are the right side. They know that the Rams secondary is in such bad shape. They just signed Eric Weddle, who hasn't played since before COVID. They know that Matthew Stafford has been struggling mightily. His QB rating has dropped since in the second half of the year. YPA, yards per attempt, is down. Interceptions have shot up. What did Aqib Talib say on your podcast after the Stafford signing in the summer that other players in the league were saying? Matthew Stafford? Like, nobody is afraid of him. Nobody was thinking it's an automatic Super Bowl trip for the Rams. Arizona's defense is 6th in DVOA, which is like the fancy way of saying their defense plays really well when you try to weight their schedule against the rest of the league. It's really good defensively. They have outgained the Rams extensively in the 2 games they've played. So everything you're saying about wanting to take the Cardinals is right. But Cliff Kingsbury is a terrible coach come November. Just awful. Like, this team has been dreadful since the second half of the year started. One good game against the Cowboys team with a bad coach that was struggling. You take the Cardinals and you hold your nose.
Yeah, I really like the Patriots. I really like the Eagles. And should I wait on the Bengals until game time?
You can. I mean, look, there's continuing the money is continuing to come in. I took the 4.5. So if you like the Bengals, take the 4.5. That would be my advice. Today, FanDuel had the lowest number at 4.5. I don't know that it will get to 4. I think it, like, for some games, if you're thinking about it, the Patriots might get interesting. Like, as it gets closer, if you love the Patriots, it might get to 4.5 by Sunday. So you might want to stick around and wait. You might want to wait on that. But you're not wrong. Like, the game the wise guys have all circled is the Patriots. And they all love the Bucs. I mean, they all love the Eagles. So your spidey sense is spot on.